Craig, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Craig Skaggs, Gulf Shores, Alabama. I wanted to clarify one thing, and that is you say there will be a subsequent public hearing on the other three bills?
No, sir. The commitment was there was going to be a public hearing today. Many like you have traveled from some distance to be a part of it. We're going to allow you to speak on all the bills you wish to and make your comments today. We will have one of the bills that will be voted on today. The other three bills will be voted on next week.
But there will be no, your commitment is there will be no further public hearings on those?
No, sir. There's not going to be any additional conversation on public hearing. Now, there will be quite a bit of conversation, I'm sure, by committee members. But I give you the opportunity to speak today on anything you choose.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Beasley.
did I understand you to say that we are going to vote on this, on the bill that's on the agenda today?
Yes, sir, we are.
Do we have a quorum? If we don't have a quorum, we won't be able to vote.
We do have a quorum. We need 5 for a quorum. So we have a quorum at the moment. As long as you're going to be here, Senator Beasley.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor because I know we have a very important Judiciary Committee meeting coming up here soon.
Yes, sir.
I do want somebody on one side or the other at some point during our public comments, if y'all don't mind, tell me this on the bills that we're discussing in our public hearing here. Have any of these been ruled unconstitutional by federal courts prior to now? I want to know that because I obviously have some issues there. So just at some point, proponent or opponent, please address my concern on that. Thank you, guys.
If there's someone to be able to address that in your comments, if you have knowledge, then do that for these two gentlemen. And we'll get to that. I think, Eric, I think you're on the list to speak, so if you can address that when you get there. All right, Craig, your time has not started, but it will now, sir.
Okay. I'm here speaking only for myself because I was alive and kicking before Roe versus Wade. I was in college in the 1960s, and as some of you may remember vaguely, it was a period of time when women still were, whether they were in college or not, becoming pregnant. And in my case, the example that I will give you is I had a very good friend back then who linked himself up with what we used to call an abortion ring, a legal ring of people in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that would take women and at a very great price perform abortions and take care of the problems. In this one specific case, another friend of mine, I call him Bobby, and his girlfriend Mary, were paragons of the community. They considered for way more than 48 hours and talked to a lot of people what they ought to do, and they decided that rather than ruin their families, that an abortion was called for, legal or otherwise. They made contact with my friend who was we'll call him agent for the ring. I was there when they set up how this was to be done. The fella, Bobby, took his girlfriend, Mary, to the bus station in Pittsburgh and dropped her off. She was to look for a man in a brown fedora with a raincoat. That man found her. They found each other. He took her in a cab to a motel, took her in a motel room, and at that point asked her, "Have you had intercourse in the last hour?" She said no. He said, "But didn't they tell you that you had to?"
Oh.
And at that point, she was faced with the decision of, as he said, "I'll leave you here in the room and you do whatever you want," or to go ahead. And she was so determined because of the family circumstance to go ahead that she allowed this man to have sexual relations with her. At that point, when he was finished, he picked up his bag and left her in the room. And what we were called in back in another town where we were, by her, of course, in hysterics. And this is the kind of thing that was very common. This and other horror stories were very common before Roe versus Wade. So as you consider this bill today, what I would ask you to do is, before you go back to the future, before you start moving backwards in time, back before 1973, remember that there are a lot of us that remember how that was. There are a lot of people alive today that didn't know what that was. And the horrors were beyond imagination, this is only one of those. And I would ask you to hold your votes, not vote on these bills, and allow women to have the right to choose, not the right to get themselves into the messes they used to. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.